Another day, another episode of Hoyo embarrassing themselves here in my comment section. Before we start, remember to subscribe so you don't miss more of this. And if you also like lore content in general, I have a whole series planned ahead, so don't miss it. Alright, let's dive straight into the first comment. I heard you called ZZZ community childish while praising WoW, but ZZZ handles more adult themes. Since you don't play the game, your criticism just makes you a hypocrite tourist. First off, I never called the ZZZ community children. I said younger audience. If that hat fits you, that's your problem. Having a younger audience doesn't mean every single player is a kid. ZZZ tackles more adult themes? Bro, after sitting through that summer event and all the goofy animations and voice acting this game has, there's no way you're convincing me of that. Serious topics show up in every game. Even LEGO games and kids movies have it. That doesn't automatically make them mature. When I talk about mature, I mean the kind of writing that forces you into gut-wrenching decisions, with no easy way out. Something like being confronted with your closest ally who's been corrupted beyond saving, and you have to put a gun to their head and pull the trigger yourself. Otherwise, they would turn on you. And then have the main character live with the weight of doing it, and knowing it could happen again. That's what I call mature storytelling. Situations that scar your character and stick with the player long after the credits roll. Until ZZZ delivers something on that level, spare me the adult themes defense. And calling me a tourist? Please, I don't need to grind 60 hours a week to recognize the same recycled issues across a gacha. Do you need to play pro football to understand football? Exactly. The patterns are obvious, and ZZZ isn't some exception to the rule. You don't play ZZZ, so where's your info coming from? The community already criticizes plenty, the devs listen and make changes fast. Unlike WoW, ZZZ does regular dev talks. Yes, I've said I don't actively play the game anymore, but I have played on release and tried multiple times to get into it along the patches. As for where I get my info, it's from the same place I get my WoW info: forums, social media discussions, YouTube videos, both Kurobots and Hoyo shields. Funny how only ZZZ players get mad about that, even though I do the exact same with Wuthering Waves. I don't even touch WoW's endgame, yet I can still talk about it because I did research, and people there either agree or respectfully disagree. The same courtesy doesn't seem to exist with ZZZ's community. Of course, even when doing research, I can still get things wrong. Just the other day, I replied to someone in which I said Yai Sakura released after Kuro Games became a company, which I later found out was incorrect. Yai Sakura wasn't from Honkai Impact 3rd like I thought. She came before Kuro was even founded. When people challenge my takes, I go back, triple check, and correct myself if my original research was wrong. I did the same when talking about power creep in ZZZ. People disagreed, I looked deeper, and guess what? My points still stand tall. And about the dev talks, WoW doesn't need them. When players ask for changes, they usually get delivered by the next patch. If something takes longer, it's for a big reason, like adding flying in Huanglong, which took longer because they had to remap the whole region for better collisions, and other technical stuff. ZZZ, on the other hand, probably relies on dev talks because its community can't even agree on what it wants. I'm sure a lot of WoW players would argue with me saying WoW was okay and I should just get good. I don't know what makes you believe only the ZZZ community does that poorly based on your comment section. I've seen the same talks in both games. I remember the time I said the anniversary rewards were trash and the Wubo community were asking me if I wanted Kuro to also give me some stock shares. The amount of doom posting the Wubo community is doing for the Miasma and Miyabi is like 5 to 1 compared to the doom posting the Hoyo community did for the Wuwa anniversary. First off, I almost had a seizure trying to understand your original comment, because there is no punctuation. And yes, there will always be people who disagree with you. That doesn't make them the majority. The same way, I don't think people commenting on my videos represent the majority either, since I know these videos attract the more extreme voices. That's why I form my conclusions by looking around in their own turf. As for the anniversary, the rewards were fine. The real issue was that it landed during a dead patch, which completely killed the hype. And I think we can all agree, no matter which game we're talking about, that players want a reasonable number of pulls for the amount of banners we get. And saying the doom posting over Miasma and Miyabi was worse than the anniversary complaints is not untrue, but it is dishonest. Miyabi and the Miasma are permanent addition, while an anniversary is supposed to be a celebration. Plus, one of those issues was twisted to fit the narrative that all companies are greedy, while the other is just a fact. Of course, the guy who wanted to talk about power creep of the game doesn't play the game, just another shit CC who wants to create drama out of both games and milk views. I've said it before, but let me remind you. I don't need to be a pro League of Legends player to know the jungler missed the smite. I don't need to be a CS pro to see someone botch a grenade. I don't need to be a plumber to notice a leaking pipe. I don't need to be a content creator to recognize someone's entertaining. So no, I don't need to grind a gacha game 24/7 to spot power creep, especially in a genre built on it. As for milking views, maybe, but if that was really my goal, I would just fully lean into being a Kurobot and trash every Hoyo game from top to bottom. Instead, I'm actually trying to be fair. It just feels biased because your game is going downhill, not because I want it to fail. And by the way, Wuwa is not even my top 1 gacha. Why did you delete my comment? I just wanted to point out that you were wrong about HP inflation, since enemy HP actually went down in 2.1. Also, Miyabi is from patch 1.4, and no one has matched her power level since. Plus, you don't even play the game and are just getting your facts from forum. Here's another comment where I almost had an aneurysm trying to figure out what they were even saying. But let's clear this up. I don't delete comments. Never have and never will. Sometimes YouTube auto-flags them and they go into review, where I manually approve them later. Yes, even the bad ones. I don't like censorship. Now about the HP inflation argument. You already caught me once with the Yai Sakura correction, so I went back and checked the sources myself. Here's what I found. Deadly Assault mode started with around 11 million HP collective. It steadily climbed to around 15 million. Dropped slightly to 14.3 million, which actually makes you kinda right since it did indeed go down a bit. But then jumped again to 16.1 million. And now in the current patch it sits at roughly 17.1 million. So yes, HP inflation is in fact happening. As for Miyabi being a 1.4 character, so she's not a problem. Wrong again. She's still a problem precisely because bosses are being tuned around her damage output. Some fights have gimmicks, sure, but it's obvious the devs are slowly choosing a direction. Either the game stays easy mode for Miyabi owners, or it becomes hard mode for those without her. And judging by the trends, they've already started leaning towards the latter. The fact people can't see it happening right in front of their eyes only proves my point even more. Oh, you muted the video and kept it running to hide his reasoning. You're a lot dumber than Saint Tontas since he decided to pause more than a million times to butcher the original content. No, if you actually look closely, I didn't keep the video playing. I cut it and shortened it. Enough jokes though. The reason I cut it was because bro just kept yapping without ever getting to the point. He was talking a lot, but said nothing at all. And it honestly felt like I was playing Genshin again and being stuck listening to Paimon. You have no idea how painful it was to sit through the whole thing. Bro just couldn't get to the point. And about the rest, the only Saint content I'm waiting on is the oiled up Shangli cosplay. As for the Kurobots, wrong fandom. I'm a Nikkei Gunner, get your facts straight. You don't really know how Hoyo's business or game engines work, yet you act like you do. Using PGR as an example for Genshin is ridiculous. They are completely different in scale and coding. Genshin has billions of lines of code, no loading zones, and way higher standards. So adding new features takes much longer. Unlike Kuro, who rushes out unfinished games, Hoyo has a strong track record of polished updates. Your content just caters to people who want their bias confirmed. I usually don't even bother responding to comments like this, but you're so deep in the Hoyo bubble that I feel like I have to try. Here are just a few examples of games that have successfully upgraded their engine over time. Ark, which went from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, and honestly, that one was closer to a full rebuild than just a straight port, so if anything it's even more impressive. PUBG, upgraded from an older version of Unreal Engine 4 to a more modern one. CSGO eventually jumped from Source to Source 2. Valorant, Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. Escaped from Tarkov, multiple Unity upgrades, going all the way from Unity 5 to Unity 2022. Subnautica, several Unity engine upgrades across its lifetime. Dota 2 made the leap from Source to Source 2. Punishing Grey Raven, updated across several versions of Unity. And my favorite example, Honkai Impact 3rd, yes, a Hoyo game, which had a major Unity engine upgrade, moving from Unity 5 to Unity 2017. Now let's go through some of your points. Is Genshin a big game with tons of code? Yes. Is it more complex than PGR? Maybe. Probably. But honestly, no one outside the devs knows. For all we know, Genshin's engine tweaks may have even made things easier to work with. We simply don't know. Are you overestimating the number of lines of code compared to other games? Absolutely. Does a big map with no loading zones automatically mean more code? No. And just so you know, I played Genshin back in 1.0, day 1, and here's the kicker. It wasn't that much better than WoW. It also had a ton of bugs, not to mention that it took literal days to install because it would get stuck downloading under a half megabyte per second, even with solid internet. And you would have to keep pausing and resuming the download for it to accelerate. Not to mention, you couldn't even install ZZZ on mobile at launch. There were issues all around. Let's not rewrite history. And finally, we have this last comment that's already been answered perfectly by this smart fellow right here. Thank you for your service. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe, comment and like, and as always, stay critical.
Would
Bye bye.
fight against it again, actually. So this, how do I activate it? Oh, like this. I killed myself. This guy, like a mini boss? I literally killed myself. Again, this is the second time I've killed myself.